So really trying to prioritize yourself, and it's not putting your kids on the back burner necessarily. It's just making sure that you're filling your cup up because you can't fill from an empty cup. It's putting that oxygen mask on yourself.
Hello and welcome to Healing Trauma Mamas. I'm your host, Madon Wingo. Thank you for joining us as we share in our stories and experiences of healing from childhood traumas and birth traumas. Listen as we discuss our struggles, our failures, our strengths, and our victories, and all those lessons we've learned along the way. Why, hello, Healing Trauma Mamas. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so thankful you decided to join us today. So I'm really excited that I get to have a special guest today. Allegra is coming on the podcast for us today. I'm so thankful I got to meet her a few months ago. And she's doing some great work down in San Angelo and just really doing some awesome work for mamas down there. And I'm so excited she came on to share. So, Allegra, do you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. So I'm Allegra. I'm a registered dietitian and international board certified lactation consultant. I'm a military spouse, and so that's really what brought us here to San Angelo. I started my business, Aloha Nutrition, when I lived in Hawaii, and I help families all around the world with their breastfeeding and their nutrition journeys. I have four kids. I have a 5-year-old, 3-year-old, and twins, 8-month-old twins. And it's been quite the journey, a big learning experience. So yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot has happened.
Yeah, but
How long
they've
have you
been a
guys been in
blessing.
how long have you guys been in Texas?
For about 2 years now, 2.5 years.
Nice. Good. San Angelo is a beautiful area.
Yeah, I never thought I'd like the small town, but I actually really like it, especially with babies that did not like the car seat. It was nice to
Ooh,
only have to drive like 5 to 10 minutes and then you're at your
yes.
destination. So,
Absolutely. That's absolutely wonderful. Yeah, so I'm really excited about all the nutritional work that you're doing for moms. I've got to be able to use you as a resource for some of my clients, and I'm really thankful for that. I would love to like share as much as you'd like about your journey. Like if you want to share how you've got
Mhm.
into nutrition or how you got into the type of work you're doing, or I would love to hear your birth stories. And I know your twin birth is an amazing story as well.
Yeah. Well, I can start with the nutrition, kind of how I got into postpartum
Yes.
nutrition. So I went to school to become a registered dietitian, and I always thought I wanted to do sports nutrition, working with athletes, some big sports team. But my first job after becoming an RD was at WIC, Women, Infant, and Children in Hawaii. And so I didn't know much about prenatal nutrition, let alone breastfeeding and anything with breastfeeding. I just thought it would be easy. You just latch your baby on. And that was my first exposure, really understanding how important prenatal nutrition is on a woman's pregnancy and then birth and delivery and then going into the postpartum period. And so I really fell in love with that and just like, wow, it is so empowering for moms to be able to make these dietary changes. And, of course, there are things that are out of our control. Sometimes things just happen, but, we can do a lot with our nutrition and our health. And then it was at WIC where I did see a lot of moms struggling with breastfeeding. And so I decided to go back to do online school to become a IBCLC, a International Board Certified Lactation Consultant, just because I wanted to further help and support moms with especially those complicated breastfeeding cases. So I was at WIC for about 2 years, and then I left WIC and started my private practice, Aloha Nutrition, which is what I'm doing now. And this was all before I even had kids. So, you kind of
Wow.
know everything, but um, you don't know what you don't know. And so it wasn't until my first baby where I was like, wow, breastfeeding really is hard. She had a tongue tie, she caused cracked nipples, vasospasm, got mastitis. So, like,
Oh
even though you
man.
know everything, like, you still have to figure out your baby and you have to work together. And so I really learned a lot in her journey. And then even with postpartum, I found that there wasn't a lot of resources for postpartum nutrition. There's a lot of information about prenatal nutrition, what to eat, not eat during pregnancy, but not much on postpartum. And I was really tired, constantly tired. I only had one baby, I wasn't chasing the toddler or twins, but I was just constantly tired. And around 4 months postpartum, I realized that, like, no, this isn't how motherhood is supposed to be. Like, why am I, um, why does it seem like my nervous system is dysregulated? Why do I feel frustrated all the time? Like, my baby started sleeping through the night all on her own. We didn't do sleep training. She just started sleeping longer stretches, but still I was tired. And I realized I was not getting enough protein. I was not eating enough. I was not getting any minerals. I was taking a really cheap prenatal vitamin that did not have enough of the nutrients to meet the demands of breastfeeding. And so I kind of just went deeper on, the limited research that there is on postpartum and breastfeeding nutrition. Um, and I just made a bunch of very much dietary changes, really focused on minerals, mineral repletion, really focused on eating enough protein at breakfast. And my mood just totally switched. I had more energy. I felt more patient. I had a better relationship with my husband. Like, I wasn't so moody and like mom rage. And then come, my second pregnancy, and then definitely by my twin pregnancy, I put a huge emphasis on minerals, mineral mocktails, which are basically like electrolytes. Really put an emphasis on protein and just eating enough. And my pregnancy from my first and my third pregnancy with the twins was like night and day difference. With my first, I actually was vegan at the time, and I was having so many food aversions. My nausea and vomiting were so bad. I didn't have to go on Zofran or any medication, but it was just like miserable first trimester. Whereas this one, carrying twins, you would think it would be even worse. And it was actually so much better. And I think it's really because I had really focused on nourishment and supporting my body. And then, come postpartum with the twins, waking up double the frequency at nighttime, I feel good. I feel great. And yes, it takes so much work to put your needs first, to fill your cup and to get your nutrition, but it makes a difference. Like, I have energy to play with my kids, my toddler, take my older kids to the park. I didn't feel like as moody or like the baby blues as I did with my first. So, that's really what I teach and educate families. So I have an Instagram account, Aloha Nutrition, and even with my one-on-one clients, really doing a lot of nutrient repletion. I feel like so much out there is like what you shouldn't have when you're breastfeeding. Like, don't eat this. Oh, don't eat that. But I'm all about like, what can we add in? Can we add more protein? Can we add more fruits and vegetables? Like, you don't have to give up your foods. If you want that soda, okay, maybe take that soda. I don't want you to have to drastically change your whole life, but can we add other things? And 9 times out of 10, when you start adding things, you no longer have those cravings for those, unhealthy things. So that's kind of how I approach things, really supporting moms and supporting them, filling up their cup, because then they have better energy to make meals and to be a more present parent and not to feel so dysregulated. So yeah, it's been such a fun ride, and I just love my clients and just my followers and people that tune in, and just when they can make these small changes. I mean, you don't need to totally change your diet or your lifestyle, but just like small little changes, like just eating more protein at breakfast, adding some collagen powder to your coffee, or making sure you're not drinking coffee on an empty stomach. All of just these small little tweaks make a huge difference on your energy.
So
So
true.
that's my long
That's awesome.
talk on how I got here.
I love it. That's great. I love the emphasis on nutrition because you're right. There's so much of like, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. And if we change our focus completely and we're not even thinking about what not to do, but we're thinking of what we are going to do, I mean, that's just in life in general, that's amazing. But when we're talking about nutrition, it's awesome. Yeah, and it changes like when you start adding those things in, your cravings do go away. Like those things that you
Mhm.
didn't realize your body was really trying to get a nutrient,
Mhm.
but it didn't know how to get it. Like, so you weren't registering what the nutrient was that you were needing. And so
Yeah,
I
like even during pregnancy, I was craving like chips with my first. I was like craving chips all the time, pickles all the time, and even just like chocolates and sugary things. And then my third, when I added more salt to my meals, added my mineral drinks, electrolytes, I no longer had those cravings for chips. Even like adding more magnesium, my cravings for chocolate decreased. So sometimes we have these cravings, or moms will crave ice cream in the middle of the night, but is it the need for more calcium? Is it the need for more iodine? Our body
Yes.
knows what it needs, what nutrients it needs. I've heard people like crave burgers, and then they come to find out they're actually anemic, low iron.
Yep.
And it's like, well, no wonder they were craving that. It's like your body is trying to tell you what it needs.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah. I
mhm.
love it. That's great. This isn't coffee, by the way. This is broth.
Oh, it's okay if it is.
No,
That's
I love
awesome.
coffee, but I switched over to trying to drink a hot electrolyte drink in the morning instead of
Hmm.
a coffee first thing. And then I've been craving more. I've been making bone broth and some really good stock. And
That's
I've been
good.
craving wanting that more than wanting coffee. And it
Yeah.
used to be, you'd ask me like coffee anytime. I will not say no to coffee. Like I would always, and my lifestyle, I could be up for who knows how many hours, throughout a
Yeah.
night and the day and night and who knows what. And I was always like, yes, coffee, coffee. And now I'm noticing once I start, like, I'm adding in all these more salts and more magnesium and everything. And like, I'm craving those things instead
Hmm.
of so much coffee. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. And I feel good. So I don't feel that
Awesome.
tiredness like I
Hmm.
was feeling. So I love it. I as a midwife, we harp protein all the time. I heard you saying protein,
Hmm.
protein, protein. I'm like, yes, I'm always like
Yes.
protein, protein, protein. Because
Yeah.
we don't realize how little, like in a normal American standard diet, how little protein is emphasized. Um,
Hmm.
for sure. So trying
And
to
some people
change.
might think like, oh, I eat meat, I'm getting enough protein. And sure, you might get it at that one meal, like dinner. Most people get adequate amount, but what does your total day look like? Are you eating enough at breakfast? Are you eating enough at lunch? Maybe a protein rich snack. Because really we need to look at our whole day, our overall lifestyle, not just that one meal, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, changing those snacking habits, I think, is a big one that
Hmm.
catches us that we don't even realize what we're reaching for snacking.
Hmm.
And yeah, like I'm a sucker for a good crunchy salty chip, like
Yeah.
absolutely. But that's a good idea. You mentioned the chips made me think about some of my pregnancies. I'm like, ooh, what was I really trying to get, because of the,
Yeah.
the different cravings that I was having.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen some newer studies on just the demands of pregnancy and lactation and the increased needs for minerals. And sodium specifically goes up to 7,000 milligrams of sodium, just because of that increase in fluid, blood volume increases. And, while we shouldn't just push sodium, we need to balance that with potassium. So making sure you're increasing that sodium, but also increasing that potassium. And unfortunately, I feel like diet culture has kind of demonized a lot of the potassium rich foods like potatoes, bananas, oh, potatoes are too high in starch or bananas are too sugary. Like, no, these are great foods that are filled with potassium. And as long as you're pairing it with some protein, it shouldn't cause a blood sugar spike. Um, but yeah, like our mineral needs definitely go up. And I also want to just add that there's a difference between sleepy and like exhausted. Like it's normal for your baby to wake up in the middle of the night. They need those frequent feeds. So yeah, you're gonna feel a little sleepy because you didn't get much sleep. But there's a difference between that sleepiness and like, oh, I got hit by a bus. I'm exhausted. I literally can't do anything. So, when you and it shouldn't be all day every day either. Like usually, even if I didn't get much sleep, with the twins especially, I'll feel a little sleepy, but there are things that I can do to support my energy and kind of help wake me up. Sometimes I will need a nap, but it shouldn't be every single day, you know.
Yeah,
So
for sure. So
want to
what's some of
normalize
the
it could be or yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, there was a glitch there. I didn't catch you.
I forget what I was gonna
Okay.
say. No worries.
So what would you consider like what are some of the questions you get most often, like that are repeated over and over?
hmm for nutrition or breastfeeding or kind of both.
Yeah, either one, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, with breastfeeding, I often hear all the time, what should I not eat? Are there foods that I need to eliminate? And I will say no. So you'll find on Pinterest, like, oh, don't eat this. It'll cause your baby to be gassy. Don't eat broccoli, don't eat even chocolate I've seen, or like garlic. And but you don't hear anything about like don't eat soda, don't eat a lot of fried foods or like seed oils. Like I believe that all foods can fit. And even with breastfeeding, unless your baby actually has an allergic reaction to that food, you shouldn't have to cut out things. So babies are gassy for other reasons. A lot of times it's just latching. Maybe they have a poor latch and they're swallowing air. And so that's causing baby to be gassy. Sometimes they're just tight. So depending on how long labor was or how fast labor was, if they had torticollis or they came out weird, like sometimes babies are just very tight and that can cause digestive issues. So I always encourage ruling out latching and just like body work, seeing a pediatric body worker to help release any tension in babies. And oftentimes that in itself will improve things. If you notice like a direct correlation, like every time you do have dairy, your baby seems to be a certain way, or, whatever, then you might want to trial taking it out of your diet. But a lot of times it's just breastfeeding related, even like tongue ties. Um, so I don't generally recommend avoiding any particular food. Um, I often find that we're so quick to eliminate foods, and then it's just further putting you into nutrient depletion. So many people's main source of protein is dairy. So I don't recommend just cutting out dairy. Let's rule out other things because we want to make sure you're getting enough calcium, you're getting enough protein, enough iodine. So all of these things are high in dairy products. Um, some other questions, like especially breastfeeding related, what can I do to increase my milk supply? I always want to know what makes you think you have low milk supply. So typically after baby is born, you might notice like your milk coming in, you might feel that engorgement, but then that engorgement feeling goes away around 4 to 6 weeks. And oftentimes that's when baby goes through a growth spurt, and then you might start doubting your milk supply because you don't feel full, but your breasts have just adapted to what baby needs. So it's that supply and demand. So making sure that baby is still nursing frequently. If you're hearing swallows, if baby's gaining weight, if they're having good output, then those are all great indicators that you have a good milk supply, baby's getting enough. Certainly, there are those that do have low milk supply. And so I would strongly recommend working with the IVCLC lactation consultant to address that. Maybe it is something on your end, something hormonal like PCOS or thyroid, or anything like insulin resistance, or maybe it's something anatomical. Maybe your breasts didn't grow. Maybe you have like hypoplasia, which is low breast tissue, or maybe it's something on baby's end. They have a weak suck or a tongue tie. And so that's preventing them from efficiently removing milk, which is going to compromise your milk supply. So it's not always just like, oh, check this box off. Like I'll often see in Facebook mom groups, moms asking, how do I increase my milk supply? And people are like, just drink tons of water, make sure you eat lactation cookies. But, it can sometimes be a lot more than that. So always working with a
That's
lactation
why you're a great
consultant is
resource
important.
because you have all that information so that
Yeah.
moms could come to instead of trying to crowdsource on a site, that they could
Yeah.
instead come to you and you can actually help them get to the root of the problem.
Mhm.
So I'm real thankful for your expertise and all of that.
Yeah. Because it can be discouraging. Like moms try everything that was suggested online, like eating all the lactation cookies and drinking all the water. And then they're like, my supply hasn't improved. And maybe they're pumping and they have the wrong flange size, So no matter how many supplements you take, it's not going to improve things if you don't address the root issue of why you have low supply in the first place.
For sure.
So
Yeah,
that's kind of my
that's
approach.
awesome. Well, We'll make sure, I mean, we're going to continue on this conversation, but if you are interested, Allegra, you do online
Hmm.
consults, right? Yeah, we'll
Yep.
make sure to check in the podcast notes and we'll have a link there. So
Thank you.
as a mom, you get to help other moms, which is an absolutely amazing thing. How has that been with four children and the two youngest being twins? Talk to me as a mom myself who works. I get to do a lot of remote stuff and I do get to be able to take my children with me sometimes with my work. How does that work for you on balance and what have you been learning in the process?
Hmm. Biggest thing is flexibility, being
Mm.
flexible, and also just getting really good with time management. Like I've become like my business has done so much better as a mom than when I wasn't a mom because I feel like my time is better utilized. I'm like, okay, baby has a 30-minute nap right now. What can I knock out? Or maybe I just do some mental health type stuff and just relax because that will help me be more present after they've woken up. I've kind of gotten me time. So really taking advantage of like even those windows of time that I do have time to do something. And, let's be honest, it's maybe not every day, but trying to be smart with time management. I also do a lot of block timing or like batch creation as well. Um, I love
Yes.
contact naps, and there's nothing wrong with contact naps. So I don't typically feel the need to nap, but sometimes I'll just nurse my baby and contact nap while I do a lot on my phone. So I create like Instagram content, reels and captions and stuff. I'll do that on my phone. Um, and then even just like kind of figuring out what time of day you do better at with work. So like I'm more productive in the morning. So I try to do stuff like work related stuff in the morning. I do have my babies in daycare twice a week. And so those Tuesdays and Thursdays, I usually will see consults, like kind of once again, like batch time, block timing. Is that the word? Block timing? Time block.
There you go.
To make sure that those hours I'm kind of like in the headspace to do consults or like headspace to be mom present. um, I really focus on nutrition and just fueling my brain because my brain, your brain needs fuel or glucose to function optimally. And so making sure that I eat, making sure I start every day with a good breakfast. Some other things I've really learned is just to be 100% in both business and mom life. So after work, just put work away and be 100% present with my kids. I feel like I'm a better mom, more patient, instead of trying to have to work, have to be present with my kids. Like I just feel like someone isn't getting all of me, so to speak.
Sure.
Hopefully that's making sense. Um, I also do a lot of like just quick, easy dinners, quick, easy meals. Sometimes I do things in the morning as well. So typically we're all in a better mood, like even my toddler, my 5-year-old. I mean, she's in kindergarten now, but earlier this year when the twins were born, um, they're doing their independent play. And so I'll just kind of start doing some dinner prep, maybe just cut some vegetables or, maybe brown the ground beef. And then when it's closer to dinner time, then I'll actually put everything together. So I do a lot of like casseroles and soups and stews, things that I can stretch and use as leftovers as well. Um, I rely a lot on like freezer or like frozen vegetables that I can just pop in the microwave. So some people think that frozen isn't as healthy as fresh, but sometimes it can be healthier than fresh because they're picking it at peak season and flash freezing it. So all those nutrients are still intact. As opposed to fresh, sometimes we're buying it from across the country. How much time has it been sitting in cargo by the time it gets
Mm.
to our store? So frozen is often washed, cut, ready to go. You just pop it in the microwave. My kids come back from school and I just pop in some edamame and now I've got an easy snack for them. So just kind of like simplifying things like that. I really practice the 3 Ds. So I talk about this all the time with my clients. I try to practice it myself, but it stands for do, delegate, delete. What are some things, whether that's your household things, or work related, or even just mental stress, that overload of motherhood? What are some things only you can do? Only I can breastfeed. Only I can, really be up in the middle of the night with my babies. Only I can do things in my business, like what are some things only I can do? What are some things I can delegate? Can I ask my husband to help with laundry here and there? Can I ask him to maybe do two dinners a week, or even rely on a meal delivery service here and there? Um, can I automate anything in my business, or like automate bills? What can you delegate? And then what do you need to delete? What stressors do you need to delete or put boundaries on? So I've really learned this year to not be a yes person, not be a people pleaser, and put boundaries and protect my space. So if I have, a request for something, I just tell them, thank you so much for thinking of me at this time. My plate is full. Um, I'll, reach back out next year or something like that. Or even just like kid activities. Like I really wanted to put my daughter in gymnastics, but once we had the twins, like they're just a lot of work. So that was just something we had to postpone. Right now is not that season. I'm not going to put my son in soccer practice. I don't want those busy late nights. I just want to help minimize some of those stressors. So, kind of do delegate, delete, and then maybe what are some de-stressing activities we can add in to support mental health? Can you go on more walks, get out in nature, be barefoot outside? I do a lot of breath work when I'm on the floor playing Legos with my kids, just kind of like, some inhale, exhale. Um, Sometimes if I'm feeling overstimulated, I'll get the kids, especially like Saturdays when we're home all day with them. I'll get the kids their coloring books, and then I'll do my adult coloring book. So we're just kind of like all de-stressing. So kind of like things like that, around your household, trying to find systems too, like laundry can be very stressful, especially with like six people and, toddler who's always dirty, babies that are having blowouts and spit up. So my system is I do a load every morning, but then I only like put everything away about twice a week. I take all the laundry out into the living room, and then I have my older kids help separate, and we don't do any folding, at least for them. Like we just put their clothes in a bin. So my toddler is
Nice.
3. He has his shorts and pants, his t-shirts, and then his underwear and pajamas, and he knows where things go in. So, having kind of like some systems like that, trying to get all the same socks so that you're not worried about mismatch. Um,
Yes.
so, so yeah, just kind of like trying to simplify life. I mean, my life is not perfect; it's still chaotic, but it's definitely. I feel like we found a good groove, and with each baby you have a learning curve, and so just kind of being flexible and really taking this time. It's very special. They're only little for so long, so trying to like prioritize that, be with them, don't feel guilty about contact naps, or being, you cannot spoil a baby. So yeah.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, that was so many great tips. That was just wonderful. Like, I hope somebody had a
Yeah.
notebook out and was writing all them down. They can rewind and then go back and
Yeah.
write them down because I loved all of that. That was wonderful. Lots of great things there. And as a family with a lot of children, yeah, you've got to come up with those systems. Like, you have to figure out
Hmm.
like what works well for your family. I wish I'd have figured out way early on that everything did not need folded. Like
Yeah.
that, like
I
that took,
learned
why
that
did that take me
quickly.
so long to realize? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But
And
it just,
even just like bath time too. Bath time is so stressful with 4 kids, especially in the evenings. So we actually do bath time in the afternoon. I feel like from when my
yes.
daughter gets home from school to dinner, those afternoons feel really long. And so like why not add some of those things in the afternoon, instead of trying to rush everything into bedtime.
Yeah,
So,
that's great. I was just
mhm.
talking to a mom about that, just how like stop and think about what's going to work well for your family and don't have all these expectations of what other people's families are doing because that's not your family. So stop and
Hmm.
see, like maybe we have to change things up a little bit. Maybe we our meal times are completely different than what other people's meal times, look like
Yeah.
or whatever the case might be. Like stop and think about it, pray about it, whatever you need to do. Like, okay, what works for our
Hmm.
family? And it may be
Yes.
completely different than what people generally do. Like
Yes.
we do
Yeah.
something funny, because we have 6 kids. We brush teeth in the kitchen.
Okay.
So we actually have a drawer in the kitchen where everybody's toothbrushes are in their holders and toothpaste and everything. And that's where people brush teeth because bathrooms are always busy with 6 kids. So an eight
Hmm.
person household, we
True.
have 2 bathrooms. And it's, that's a fight for people to get in and out of there, especially at bedtime. So once we moved it to the kitchen, I was like, why didn't we do this so much sooner? I was like, I've never heard
Yeah.
of anybody doing this, but yes, we're doing it. And it
Yeah. I
has
haven't
worked
heard of that.
well.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. That's like you have to find what's going to work for your family.
exactly. Yeah. So I love all those tips. It's wonderful. Thank you for
Yeah.
that. What are some things that you would love to just like you have an audience right now. If you could speak to every mom, what is something that you would love to say?
It would be to remember to take care of yourself. We really like, even if we have a very supportive partner, spouse, everything at the end of the day really does fall on the mom. So, and in order to kind of counteract that, we have to be mentally there, present, physically, there, feeling energized. And so all of that comes from supporting ourselves and taking care of ourselves and filling our cup. And I've really had to practice what I preach. There are some times where I just forget to eat lunch because I get so busy and then I wonder why I'm tired and or snappy or irritable at the kids. It's because I'm hangry. So really trying to prioritize yourself. And it's not putting your kids on the back burner necessarily. It's just making sure that you're filling your cup up because you can't fill from an empty cup. It's putting that oxygen mask on yourself. So even if my babies, especially the twins, like they are just crying and I'm feeling exhausted or overstimulated, I realize I haven't eaten. I will get a quick granola bar or beef, chomp stick, or even just a couple dates, just something to give me a little bit of energy so that I don't break down while taking care of my kids. Checking in, have I had water? Am I hydrated? So having water bottles around the house. So it is really hard to put your needs first, but you will benefit everyone around you. Your kids will see you. Like I've heard from clients, once they started to implement these changes, they like their husbands mentioned that they were more patient. Or I remember one of my clients said that her stepson was like, wow, you're actually really fun. Like, what have you been doing? Like he was an older stepson. And he was like, I actually ate breakfast. And so I have more
Oh my
energy.
goodness.
So, we kind of forget about just taking care of ourselves. So with all my pregnant moms, like in prenatal consults, or if we're talking about like preparing for the postpartum period, I always ask them, like, what makes you feel human right now? Do you need a daily shower? Is it putting makeup on? Like, personally, I don't have to take a shower every day, but I like to put makeup on or even just get dressed, get out of PJs because mentally I feel like I'm more there. Making my bed is huge because it makes me feel like I've already done something productive, and then I feel like okay, I could do the dishes. I can make a breakfast for all my kids. Um, so yeah, I guess just kind of like making sure that you're taking care of yourself. And so yeah, I know that can be hard, but starting the day, getting breakfast, checking in, getting some quick snacks here and there. I mean, we live in a first world country. We have convenience foods. Not all of it is unhealthy. We can rely on some of those healthy things. Um, so yeah, I guess that would be kind of like, protect your mental health too. That's huge. And there's plenty of studies showing how certain minerals can support our mental health. So, vitamin D, omega 3 fatty acids, Magnesium is huge. And even just getting enough protein, because protein is made up of amino acids, and specifically the amino acid tryptophan can help make serotonin, which is that feel good hormone. So, really supporting our body, making sure we're getting our nutrition. Balanced blood sugar is huge for our hormones. So, people often say, they just have something's off with their hormones, but once we actually address the root cause, it's actually like abnormal blood sugar. They're not getting the minerals. So, we can't just blame our hormones. It's really kind of zooming out and seeing how you're doing. What is your mineral status and all that. And I'm sure you talk a lot about that too as like a midwife.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. But I love that you we have lots of education on that on a broader spectrum, and you have some very in-depth education on that, and I love it. I love that's why delegating it's send
Mm-hmm.
them over to you, as the
Mm-hmm.
resource instead of me trying to pull. But yes, we talk about that a lot, that self-care, especially like in the postpartum, trying to make sure that you're taking some time.
Mm-hmm.
Because that mental health during that time is so important as
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can
No,
definitely involve your kids with that. Like even with my makeup, I'll bring my toddler in and he'll just play with something on the floor. Or sometimes he likes to just kind of play with the blush brush and he's not actually putting makeup on, but he's like playing with some of the things. Or even my babies, sometimes I'm holding on to them. Some I have my kids help with the laundry here and there. So kids want to help, they don't like sometimes we feel like, oh, they're too young. And obviously there's different ages, like my newborns can't help with
sure.
certain areas. But, even just sitting on the floor with my babies, they're doing tummy time. Can I do some tummy time and do some like pelvic floor type work to strengthen my core, strengthen my pelvic floor? Can I do some breath work? Can I do some yoga? So it's like getting those mental health breaks. It doesn't always happen where you can just step out. So trying to find things that you can do with your kids, I think is really helpful.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, that's absolutely great.
Mhm.
Well, I'm excited. I thought maybe I'd announce on this podcast too that we're starting the Concho Valley Birth Network, and you're a part of that, and
Yeah.
really excited about that. And just we wanted to create a resource for the area, the San Angelo area, and then spreading out from there. And I think it will be a great resource for families in the area. And so I love that you're a part of it. We have doulas a part of it, obviously midwives and some mental health advocates as well, and perinatal health. So I'm really excited to start that, and you'll see that linked below as well. Our kind of opening of that new network for everybody to be able to use. Um, Last words, anything that you really want to impart to the listeners?
Hmm. You're doing an amazing job, Mama. I know this season, this chapter is hard. But babies, kids are a blessing. I know not everyone can carry kids, and it really is a privilege. So trying to give yourself grace, love yourself, it starts with you. You are a wonderful mom. There's a lot of information out there. It can be information overload, but at the end of the day, trust your gut, trust your mom gut. You are your baby's biggest advocate. So, yeah, you're doing a great job.
Thank you for listening. May you be encouraged and strengthened by what you've heard today. Remember, you are dearly loved by your Creator, so be who He created you to be. May you go in peace, friends. Till next time, Shalom.